Hello, my tabletop nemesis. It is I, the upstart warsmith again. Now, today is going to be an interesting one because I'm going over doing camouflage patterns for guardsman-like minis. In this case, I'm showing off the pattern that I specifically did for my Trader Guard forces. Now, this is a sniper of the proven metal Trader Guard faction that I have for my own custom Iron Warriors warband. The proven metal are basically a subdivision of the overall Siege Hounds Iron Warriors warband. The proven metal are Trader Guardsmen who have proven their worth in combat and survived against the Siege Hounds and who have been inducted or indentured into their service as more professional mortal followers or slaves of the ruinous powers. So with the sniper, you can see here I've given him his own little custom camouflage pattern. Now, what I like to do when I make little custom patterns like this for specific forces, let me try to get a little more light here, see if we can, is I try to make my own little categories of camo in my head. So this is one that I call Death World Canopy. Basically for like jungles on Death World, you know, Catachan if you would, or an example like that. And so I'm going to show you how to replicate this camo pattern to give you an idea of the process of just making your own camo in Warhammer 40k. Now, obviously this one's already done, and previously I'd gone a little too thick on the paint, so I'm going to show y'all how to do this with more thinned, appropriately paints. More appropriately thin paints. So this is the body of a Trader Guard radio operator, and for him we're going to be doing his pants, and this is just going to be basically an instructional. We're just going to do the pants. I'm going to go ahead and just go over how I do the pattern, as well as I might even list some real world inspirations that I use, because as I'm sure I've maybe mentioned once or twice, I have another channel where I go over military surplus and camping on the side. So I've seen a lot of different camouflages from around the world: East Germany, the Soviet Union, Russia, China, United States, yada, yada, etc., etc. And whenever you're making camos, it's always good to really consider, like, what kind of environment do you want this trooper to be in? Like, how do you want it to look? And so with Death World Canopy, I thought of something for like a jungle or heavily forested world. Now, first what we're going to do is I have my paint put in these little pre-done tubs where it's like mixed with a little bit of water that I felt like was appropriate. Now, it might take a few coats, but we're just going to do a small section of this to show off how it would look. So we're going to do probably right here on the front leg. So I'm using my appropriate brush, and I'm just going to get a little bit on there at first, and we're just going to kind of dab it on there and kind of just move it around, get it nice and even, you know, just nice and even. Now, I'm not sure if it's too thick or not. I think it might be thinned enough, but I find it's always good to just do it at your own discretion. But I'm going to try and move it around as much as I can, get it nice and equally distributed. And if there's any overlap on, like, say, the putties down here, sometimes it just, it happens. I think I kind of got out of camera there for a little bit. My apologies, everyone. But basically, it's always good to do, like, 2 to 3 little thin coats, depending on what it is, maybe more. I know yellow is one that they say thinning it's just a real pain. But it's always okay if you go on the putties, because you can do those later and cover up any overlap mistakes. But main thing is just getting this leg right here. So I'm not sure if you can see it right. But so this first one we used is Castellan Green. Basically what I was going for was a nice, just overall nice little green background. Because my reasoning was basically with Death World Canopy, you got to think he's in that deep jungle where there's not a lot of light, where it's mostly a lot of greens, browns, maybe some heavy shadowing in certain areas. So I felt like a good overall background color was going to be just a simple, almost OD green kind of color. So I went with Castellan Green. Now, just give that a minute. But it looks pretty good, so I'll go ahead and put on one more thinned coat. And again, I'm just taking a little bit. I'm going to dab it on there, just kind of move it around, get it nice and evened out. And then, mind you, this is your first step to making Death World Canopy. There we go. Now, it might turn out a little lighter with this one because I'm actually thinning the paints. I've noticed whenever you don't thin paint, it kind of turns out maybe a little bit darker than it should be, or maybe even just a little bit more clumped. You know, it really is true when it comes to more solid colors, because metals seem to be a little bit more thin enough where it's not near as bad, but when you're doing solid colors, it would seem that, from my understanding, that thinning them is just overall a good idea, whether it's a base paint or a layer. So all of the bases and layers that I'm using have been thinned to what I felt was an appropriate amount. But oh yeah, you can see the green on there starting to even out really nice. Oh yeah, and I used a black primer because obviously it's going to be a much darker coloration overall, so I wanted a nice dark primer underneath, because this is going to be more of like a deep jungle camo kind of thing, so I want it to have a kind of a consistent darkness to it. Now I'm going to go ahead and I guess just do a third layer, because again, overall I want to cover up that primer. I want it to be nice and consistent. I apologize if I keep getting out of the camera. Let me go ahead and back this up. There we go. But I want to go ahead and just move it nice and around, get it nice and moved about, get it nice and equally distributed. Because I want a nice, thin couple coats that are nice and smooth, that show that nice, fine detail. Oh, yeah. Now, that's looking great. But, yeah, this is Castellan Green that I thinned down to use for his main uniform. Oh, yeah. Just kind of keep going around and making sure it's nice and spread out evenly. I didn't miss no spots. Beautiful. Beautiful. It's looking beautiful. So I'm going to let him kind of just sit there and dry a moment. Go ahead and clean my brush. So once this dries, the next thing we want to do is we want to take a bottle of Creed Camo Contrast. So basically what I'm doing is I'm getting the background properly, getting it properly contrasted for that nice camo look. Basically, this is what I did last time, and it felt like it worked. And maybe others have a different method of doing it, but this is what I found worked for me, is adding the contrast first before going ahead and doing the patterns. Because with the patterns, what I'm wanting to do is I want to create that contrast. And I don't mean the paint. I'm talking about, in camouflage, my understanding, you have your macro and micro patterns. You have your contrasts that break up the outline. And so with this guy, I'm trying to make sure his background coloration is nice and consistent, and it has just an overall good background coloration that kind of blends but allows for that contrast to show. So now I'm going to go ahead and take the contrast. Use a different brush for this one. So I'm going to take, just try not to overdo it if I can, but I'm going to try and just take just a nice bit of that contrast. So there we go. Just kind of get it nice and on there. Mind you, if you have to grab a little more, it's okay. You know, just do what you feel looks right. There we go. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. That's looking good. Looking great. You can kind of see that that green is kind of really being bold, more boldened to make a more dark but noticeable contrast with its original coloration, because you want to have that nice just tinge, that nice just jungly tinge. There we go. Yeah. Now, there's a lot of different patterns you can possibly do, because Warhammer allows for a lot of great customization options. And here in a little bit, I'm going to go through some real-world patterns that inspired Deathworld Canopy, the little pattern, my little headcanon pattern that I use to create that sniper over there's cloak, main cloak. And you're probably wondering, why didn't you do his main uniform the color too? Well, because I wanted to go for that look of, hey, they're a traitor warband. Maybe they didn't have a uniform in his size, and he had to make do, and this guy just happened to have a uniform that was in his size and the main camo. You know, go for that really kind of patch together rough look that you would think Traitor Guard would have. Let's do just the right here on the back of the leg. I just feel like I didn't do enough, so let's see. Oh yeah, that's coming together nicely. It's looking like a nice, rich, jungly kind of green. Almost turned into almost like a pine green right now. Of course, we're going to need to let it sit there and dry a moment. So, and again, that was your Creed camo contrast. Now, we're going to look at the camo in its completed form. I want to start talking a bit about the inspirations behind the pattern. So, and I'm going to add pictures after the fact to show what they look like in real life. So, with this guy's cloak, you can see he's got like those bright green, those kind of brighter green, like long strokes that go down in a directional kind of way. And that's to imitate almost what, if you know anything about it, it's called East German Strichtarn, which is also sometimes known in English as rain camo. So basically it is a brown, like a light brown background with like simple dark brown rain, like just lines like raindrops, and they're usually smaller. Like this is a lot bigger, obviously, but theirs is a lot smaller in real life. And I'll put a picture of what Strichtarn looks like on the video here momentarily. But then what else you'll see, if you really look, you'll see these tiny drab little leaf kind of designs in the pattern. And what I took inspiration for that was the Cold War Soviet Union's Berezka pattern. They had a silver Berezka and a gold Berezka. And basically it was like a digital two-color leaf pattern. And basically what it was meant to do was, at a distance, it was meant to create the effect that would look like leaves going through the tree, like the light of going through leaves and the trees on the ground. And it was, I believe it was the stair-step effect. Obviously, these aren't digitized leaves because I can't just, you know. But you'll see in the middle of them, too, you'll see, if you can kind of see, there's little light khaki spots. And that was meant to imitate like light, or maybe just some disruption with the leaves, just something to add more contrast. Now, what I tried to do too was every single leaf, every single drop is meant to be directional. So the leaves can kind of go a little all over a little bit to imitate fallen leaves. They're not all going to face the same direction. Whereas with the moot green layers that are like the long kind of strokes, they're meant to be kind of directional. Like on the main cloak here they go down, or like here they go down. The hood, they kind of go back and then down into the main cloak. And again, the whole point of that is to create the illusion of a consistent, disruptive pattern that's been printed on this cloak. So, now that we've kind of discussed that a little bit, let's go ahead and get back to our guy. Now, mind you, there's a lot of different kind of patterns you can use for inspiration for your camo. You don't have to do like mine specifically, but I'm really hoping that this video will give you just pointers to perhaps your own custom design. I would love to see more people do their own little custom artistic designs out there, like based on environment. You don't have to do just US M81 woodland, like the usual woodland camo you see, or you don't just have to do DCU 3-color desert, or Russian camo, or British DPM, or Chinese type '07 universal, whatever. You have unlimited creative freedom, and I would love to see more people practice their creativity. I think it's awesome. So, next up, what I like to do is I like to put the moot green. Now, mind you, I'm just going to do kind of the tip of the brush. And as I mentioned before, I want to create a directional design. And I don't want to lay it on too thick. I want it to just be nice and consistent, a nice, consistent direction. Let's see. Yeah, that's good. So I'm going to go ahead and get just a little bit more and do another one. And you can do them in various lengths. They don't all have to be the same length. Because, again, you want to kind of add a little bit of variety there. You want it to kind of show some disruption. It's meant to break up the outline of the soldier. Oh, yeah. It's coming together. Oh, yeah. Looking good, looking good. Now I want to kind of just place them a little bit randomly, but also, again, directionally. So they create that, like an overlapping kind of camo pattern design. This one's covered up by the putty a little bit, so you can't see it all the way down into the pant leg. There we go, a little bit more. As you see, it's coming together. Kind of hard to see, but it's coming together really good. I'll try to get more of a close-up on it. Now let's see, because basically I'm trying to make it bigger and smaller, create the macros and micros, because you don't want everything to be too small or too big, because you don't need it to blend together. You need that contrast. You need that contrast, but also you need the right colors to match environment. You don't want to be like a blood axe orc where you try to copy human camos, but you don't actually do the right colors. It just looks like a motley recreation. Okay, and again, I want to be very directional with a lot of this. I want to try and make it directional, which means I might want to kind of follow the movement of the leg a little bit, so that way it looks like he's actually walking in a printed camo uniform. There's got to be kind of almost like a consistency with the contrasting colors and shapes to almost, again, give that proper illusion. There you go. It almost looks like a watermelon, stripes on a watermelon almost, when you really think about it. Maybe I should call it Death World Melon. But yeah, and don't be afraid if, like, on certain pieces of the uniform or equipment, the sizes look different, because again, with the Imperium of Man being such a large, having such a large manufacturing base, there's always the possibility that maybe a factory used different sizings or different coloration. So you can always add a little bit of fun variation to it. I think that's just about to do it with this pant leg here. Because again, I'm not going to do the whole one for this whole video, but I'm just trying to show you the basic gist of it. And kind of, we'll go over it a little bit more. But if you can see it good enough, you'll see that it's got those little moot green layer deals. Now, what I like to do next is I like to do the leaves, because I like them to kind of be either in between the lines or sometimes even overlap a little bit. Because again, the leaves are meant to be like fallen leaves, so they're going to kind of overlap a little bit. It's just going to happen. And let me make sure I showed you this. The moot green layer, the layer of moot green is what I use for the watermelon stripes, essentially, if you want to call it that. Now, for the leaves, I use Still Legion Drab. It gives that nice brownish, greenish kind of color. Because you don't want it all to just be strictly green. Because, again, there's other colors out there. I want to have at least... the main thing is I want to use natural colors for a Death World jungle. I want to use natural colors. Using bright colors like, say, yellow or red is generally inadvisable. Unless there's, like, specific... foliage or things in the land that may be potentially on an alien world might exist that would, you know, blend into the background. Or, you know, soldiers might just pick up foliage that's unique and that they can strap to themselves. It just depends. But so far we've got the little watermelon stripes on his pant leg. And now we're going to start with the leaves. And this is where I got to kind of focus a little bit. But let's say I start right here. Okay. First, I'm going to start like the stem area, like where I'm making a stem. Then I'm going to go around, make a point, go back around again. Now, like I said, it's a little hard. My brush might need a little work over. But looks like it's forming a little rough leaf. Might need to reshape my brush a little bit more. Hold up, folks. Like I said, not every leaf and not every line is going to be perfect, and that's okay. Like I said, what I would do is, don't think of it as a mistake. Think of it as a happy little accident, like a happy little, like just a happy little accident. And that gives you the chance to create like a printing error, like on the uniform, like it's a little printing error. Like he's just using what he's got to use. So, let's see. I'll go back. Kind of try to redo the definition a little bit. There we go. Nice little happy leaf there, huh? Nice little happy leaf. And the last part of this process is going to be much simpler once you have everything kind of done. But you see he's got a little leaf there. And again, this is Death World Canopy. So you just want to kind of... And you don't want to put too many leaves. You want them to kind of be sparse, kind of spread throughout. Because again, it's just a small part. Just a small part of the overall pattern we're designing. So, again, start again. And maybe I'll just do a little spot right there. And then I'll start with the point of the leaf, depending on like how I want the leaf to look. And just, yeah. Ooh, my brush needs a little work. Hey, that's why I'm having such a hard time doing my own work. But see, it's supposed to be like a little blotchy leaf kind of thing. There we go. It's been a minute since I've done this. Oh, man, yeah. Yeah, there we go. Just a blotchy little leaf thingy. That's all it is. Blotchy little leaf thingy, huh? Yeah. And like I said, you can always not do the leaves, you can do something else. But this is just my own little take on the pattern. Death World Canopy. Oh yeah, looking good. And maybe as I do this, I'll remember how I did it a little bit more properly, if maybe I'm not doing it the way I originally did it. The point is, you want to kind of replicate like either a pointed leaf shape or maybe just a blotchy leaf. You're trying to create a pattern, at least in this case, that has almost like a more natural kind of look to it. So I say we'll do one more leaf, because maybe who knows, maybe on the pants they're a little bigger, and on cloaks they're a little smaller. You never know. But I say we put one maybe right here on the upper leg area. So again, just get a little bit. Let me just try to do a little bit less this time. Let's see. Well, we'll start with the main leaf body, I think, this time. Just gotta get a little bit more. It's not coming out. Okay. There we go. I don't want to be too thick. There we go. A little smaller like I want. There we go. Yeah. That's one good. And then I might do like a little tip of a leaf on the inside of the pant here that's tucked into the putty. And I don't really have to put too much on there, just like it's tucked in. There we go. Yeah, because you're going to have the pattern running throughout in certain areas. So you want it to kind of look a little bit more natural. There we go. And again, anytime it touches an area it shouldn't, you can always just touch it up later whenever you actually start on the putty and the boots and everything. But there we go. Look at that. Looking good. And again, be lenient on yourself when you're doing this. Try to think of it as, oh, maybe it was a printing error in the factory. You know, no, always touch up if you feel like you can. But let's try to bring the other guy in here. You'll see with when I was doing him, I did the leaves a little smaller on his, whereas with this guy, his pants, they're a little bit bigger. And again, you can always just say, well, maybe on the actual uniform it's bigger, whereas with cloak it's a little smaller. Because again, the many different factories around the Imperium, there's going to be different printing and different printers and manufacturers. So try to be easy on yourself. Just take a little creative liberty with it and have fun. There's nothing wrong with it. At the end of the day, main thing is you like it. And it turns out the way that you feel would look appropriate. So, last step in terms of the actual painting the pattern before adding the shade, we're going to use Creed Khaki to make the little light bits on the inside. Now this is really simple. This is honestly really simple. Because I'm not actually going to be moving the brush very much, if at all. In fact, more what I'm doing is just I'm poking little dots. Looks like I need to just clean these later and get them shaped. Got a little way I do it. Okay, so I'm going to dip. There we go. And feel free to speed up this video if you feel like you need to. Now, I'm going to find a leaf. And sometimes I do either just one dot or I do two. This one I think we'll do two. My brush is giving me a little bit of trouble there. Come on, buddy. Let's try to stay together. I don't want it splitting because I'm trying to be very precise. Now, again, I thinned the paint, so I'm going to have to do a little bit of touch up on the little areas. But again, I'm going to try to make like a little dot is what I'm doing. And what this does is it creates almost like an effect of like a slight dull, like the leaf has a little bit of light going through it. It's to create that extra contrast without putting such a large, bright color on it. Yeah, that's good. Looking great. And usually I put like the dots on the edge or sometimes in the smack of the middle. It just depends. And again, you don't need to be super vibrant or anything like that. Because again, this is like the earthy khaki you see on like USM 81 Woodland or something, where it's meant to be like the more sandy or light dirt kind of area. Now, I think that should be good enough, because again, we're not trying to make this super, super bold, but let's try to there we go. But see there? Can I see the camo pattern? Now, it's a little hard to see. I'm trying to get y'all the best look possible. But that's the leg where I did the camo. Now, the last bit that I like to do is I like to take a Thonian camo shade. And I just get a little light bit of it, mind you. I don't try to over, drown it or anything like that. But basically I'll just go over and just try to get a nice little touch up. Looks like I got a bit much on there, but I can dry off the brush and just go back, but let's just kind of get it in there. There we go. There we go, looking nice. There we go, and just go back over and kind of spread around the excess. There we go. Look at that. And mind you, this is just how I do it personally with the camo and stuff, but if you have aspirations of doing your own camo, maybe this will give you a nice little starting point to kind of figure it out. Because again, I don't want to just do like a copy and paste of a real world pattern. I might like take influence, but I want to make something unique, something that I can enjoy and feel accomplishment in. And look at that, looking beautiful. Just absolutely wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. Look at that. So I think maybe that's enough. But let's try to get a good look at that. Now it's going to have to dry, but if you follow these steps, it should eventually come out something similar to this. But I think that turned out really good for what it was. Again, I accidentally made the leaves a little bigger and the little moot green a little bigger, but considering this is the actual uniform, it really wasn't too bad. And again, you can always explain it in lore as like different manufacturers and maybe different pieces have a bigger print. But overall, let that dry, and in the morning it should look a lot better. But I hope this helped answer any questions anyone may have had about doing camouflage for their guard forces, trader guard, or even just random stuff you want to camo up. So with that, my tabletop nemesis, I will see you on the tabletop.